All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to unlock some serious computer powers, diving into the world of Linux commands. We've got our hands on some real computer science course material, all about operating systems. Think of this as your Linux command crash course, especially if you're just starting out.
You know, what I think is so cool about this stuff is that even if you aren't trying to become like a coding master, Linux commands are so useful across like a ton of tech fields these days.
Totally. It's like, you're talking directly to the computer, not just through an app someone else designed.
Yeah.
It's powerful stuff for sure. And our course material today actually starts by comparing Linux to operating systems you're probably already familiar with, like Windows, Mac OS, that kind of thing, just to set the stage.
And you know, the big thing that makes Linux stand out, especially from a computer science perspective, is that it's open source.
Right.
Anyone can change it, share it, build on it. It's super flexible, and that's a huge part of why it's everywhere in servers and tech fields.
Makes sense. So our source material, it describes Linux commands as basically telling a computer what to do one step at a time,
Yeah.
which I kind of love. And all this happens in the Linux terminal, which is your command line interface. They even give a handy shortcut to open it. CTRL, ALT, T.
Nice. And let me tell you, even just learning a few like really basic commands can give you so much control over your system.
Right.
It's kind of amazing how much you can do. And our source, it helpfully breaks down the commands by what they do. So you've got your directory commands, file commands, ways to see what's inside those files, commands for user stuff, and a whole bunch more.
Okay, so it's like a toolkit, right? For each thing you want to do on your computer, there's a command for that.
Exactly.
So like one of the very first commands, they teach you PWT, which stands for print working directory.
Yeah.
It's like asking your computer, hey, where am I right now in this whole file system?
Oh, that's a good one. It's so easy to get lost in all those folders and stuff, even if you've been using Linux for a while. So PWT is key. It's like your compass.
I like that. And then, of course, to actually move between those folders, you'd use the CD command, change directory.
Right.
Which, if you think about it, it's kind of like using a map app, but inside your computer. So say you're like, I want to go to my documents folder. You just type CD documents, and you're there.
Boom. And if you want to make a totally new folder, that's when you'd use mkdir.
mkdir.
Short for make directory. Think of it like creating, one of those container things people used to organize, but for your files on your computer, maybe for like a specific project or something you want to keep it all neat.
Well, that makes sense.
Like in web development, that's how you'd organize, all your images, your code files, everything's in its little spot.
Keeps it tidy.
Exactly.
So the tutorial we're looking at, it actually lists over 50 common Linux commands.
Wow.
Don't worry, we're not going to go through all of them.
I was going to say.
But we're definitely going to hit the essentials.
Yeah, we'll focus on the ones that you'll actually use, like day to day. The ones that'll make you realize, oh, I can do that now.
Right.
Like L's, for example. Super simple, but so useful. Need to see what's in a folder. The L's will list it out for you.
It's like opening a drawer.
Yeah.
Right, and just being like, oh, there's all my stuff.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, all right, so let's say we want to actually create a new file. That's where the touch command comes in.
Oh, yeah, touch is great. It basically lets you create a new empty file, like instantly, like magic. And you can even do multiple files at once if you need to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is a huge time saver for certain things. Like, let's say you're starting a new coding project. You know you're going to need a bunch of different files. Boom, touch, touch, touch. Done.
Speaking of time savers, what about when you need to make copies of files or even whole folders? That's got to be QP, the copy command, right?
You got it. No more, like, dragging and dropping a million things. CP is the way to go.
Way more efficient. Okay, so we've created some files, we've made copies, but how do we actually look inside these files, see what's in them?
Ah, well, that's where cat comes in.
Cat.
Yeah, it lets you see like the entire contents of a file right there in your terminal. Super useful for, if it's a smaller file, just doing a quick check.
Makes sense. Like, oh, what's in this one again? Oh, right, that's the code I was working on.
Exactly. Now, if you've got like a massive file, you probably don't want to just see the whole thing dumped on your screen.
Right.
That's where head and tail can be super handy.
Oh, I've heard of those, yeah.
Yeah.
Those are for seeing, like, just the beginning or the end of the file, right?
Exactly. So head, by default, it shows you the first 10 lines, kind of like skimming the intro of a book or something.
Okay.
And then tail shows you the last 10, so you can see what's happening at the end.
So, like, if I was debugging code and I thought the error was somewhere near the end of this huge log file, I'd want to use tail.
Precisely. Now, let's say you're trying to find something specific within a file, like a particular word or even a phrase.
Okay, yeah.
That's when you bring in grep.
Grep. Okay, I feel like I've seen that one around, but I'll admit, I don't really have a good grasp on it.
Yeah, grep it's powerful, but once you learn it, you end up using it constantly. It basically lets you search for patterns in text. And it's not just like exact words. You can make those patterns really, really complex
Hmm.
using something called regular expressions.
Regular expressions. Okay, that sounds like a whole other deep dive right there.
It totally is. We won't get into all that today, but just know that with regular expressions in grep, you can find practically anything within a file or even across like multiple files super fast.
So it's like a supercharged search function for your whole computer.
Exactly. Now, our course material, it calls grep a filter, and it groups it with a few other commands like cut, sort, and WC.
Filters. Okay, I'm intrigued. What's the deal with filters?
So this is where things get really powerful with Linux commands. Filters let you take the output of one command and then like immediately use it as the input for another command.
Well, interesting. So you're like chaining these commands together.
You got it. Think of it visually, right? You've got your data and it's flowing from left to right. You can just insert these different commands into that flow. So like let's say you want to grab a specific column of data.
Okay.
Use cut, need to sort that data alphabetically,
Right?
add sort to your pipeline.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this is useful.
It's awesome. You're basically building your own like custom data processing tool right there in the terminal. And you can use these really simple commands, but combine them to do some pretty amazing things.
I bet.
Like, let's say you wanted to find out how many times does the word error show up in this giant log file you've got. You could use cat to show the file content, pipe that to grep to only find the lines with error, and then pipe that to WC, which can count words. Boom, you've got your answer.
Wow, so you just completely automated something that would have taken like forever to do manually.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And like, that's just one example. Imagine like you want to find all the files that were changed on a certain day, or you want to pull out some specific data from a website.
Okay.
Stuff like that. You can totally do it by just combining the right commands and filters. It's powerful stuff.
It really is. My mind is like officially blown. I'm starting to get why people who love Linux really, really love Linux. It's like this whole other level of like computer fluency, you know?
Totally. And the best part, you don't have to memorize every single command. It's more about getting the logic, knowing where to look things up, and honestly, just not being afraid to try stuff out.
Yeah, that's huge.
Just be curious, call around a bit. That's how you really learn this stuff.
So our course material, it also mentions like user commands so you can manage different accounts on your system, networking commands. There's even a mail command so you can send emails right from the terminal.
Oh, yeah. Old school.
Right.
But it just shows you, even though Linux can seem kind of intimidating, it's got tools for everything. From those basic everyday tasks to like crazy technical challenges.
Definitely. This deep dive has been amazing. We're just scratching the surface, obviously, but
Yeah.
I feel like I have this whole new appreciation for Linux
Yeah.
and just the power of these command line tools.
That's what we like to hear.
I know, right?
And, as you keep learning, think about this. You know how to create files now, move them around, see what's inside them, even search through them, all using these commands. What if you could take those steps, those things you do over and over, and make the computer do them automatically?
Oh, interesting.
Like a script that, I don't know, cleans up your downloads folder every night or renames a whole bunch of files for you, just like that. That's the kind of power scripting gives you in Linux, and it all starts with these basic commands we've been talking about.
That is a good point to leave it on. We went from like 0 to Linux command heroes in like an hour. It's amazing how sometimes the most powerful tools are the ones that seem the simplest at first. So yeah, if you're ready to like level up your computer skills, open up your terminal, start messing around with what you've learned. And hey, if you come up with any cool scripts or you find some neat Linux trick, let us know. We'd love to hear about your command line adventures. Until next time, happy coding.